Scientists say learning new things is good for your brain, so technically watching this video counts as a self-improvement. You're welcome. What if everything you thought you knew about the world was only part of the story? In this video you'll discover some of the most fascinating, strange and mind-blowing facts that sounds fake, but are completely real. Personally, the last one is my favorite. Let's start with the warm-up. Did you know that every single one of you can actually see the past? It sounds impossible, but it's happening right now. In fact, you've never seen the present, not even once. That's because light, despite being the fastest thing in the universe, still needs time to travel. Every image your eyes receive is already slightly old by the time it reaches your brain. Even the person standing right in front of you is being seen a tiny fraction of seconds in the past. The delay is incredibly small, but it's real. Now look at the moon. It's about 239,000 miles away from Earth, and its light takes about 1.3 seconds to reach us. That means the moon you see is not the moon as it is now. It's the moon as it was more than a second ago. Some stars are hundreds or even thousands of light years away, meaning their light began its journey long before many events in human history ever happened. So every time you look up at the night sky, you're literally looking into the past. Speaking of sky, or more precisely about the space, did you know there is a giant cloud of alcohol floating through the universe? It sounds like science fiction, but it's completely real. Deep in space, near the center of our Milky Way galaxy, astronomers discovered an enormous cloud containing ethyl alcohol, the same type of alcohol found in alcoholic drinks. This cloud, known as Sagittarius B2, is about 1000 light years across and contains an estimated 10 billion liters of alcohol. That's enough to fill Earth's oceans many times over. But before you start packing your bags, there is a catch. The alcohol is spread incredibly thin across an enormous region of space, mixed with dust and other gases. You could never collect or drink it. Even so, its discovery surprised scientists because it proved that surprisingly complex organic molecules can form naturally in space long before planets or even life began to exist. So yes, somewhere in our galaxy there is a massive cloud made partially of the same alcohol humans have been making for thousands of years. Most people know that no two fingerprints are the same, but very few realize that the same is true for your tongue. The surface of your tongue is covered with tiny ridges, grooves and patterns that are completely unique to you. Even identical twins who share nearly the same DNA have different tongue prints. In fact, researchers have explored using tongue prints as a form of biometric identification, just like fingerprints or facial recognition. Since the tongue is protected inside the mouth, the unique pattern is also less likely to be damaged by cuts, burns or wear over time. While fingerprint scanners are everywhere today, don't be surprised if future security systems recognize you by something you probably never thought about: your tongue. So your tongue is unique enough to identify you, but here is something even stranger. Even when you kiss someone, you might not actually be touching them the way you think. It sounds impossible, but according to physics, you've never actually touched anything in your entire life. When you place your hand on the table, the atoms in your skin never truly make contact with the atoms in the table. That's because the negatively charged electrons surrounding those atoms strongly repel each other through the electromagnetic force. What you experience as the feeling of touch is actually that invisible repulsive force preventing the atoms from passing through one another. Your brain explains that force as physical contact. In other words, there is always an incredibly tiny gap between the atoms in your hand and the atoms in the object you're touching. And if you really want to think about it, that means you've technically never touched your phone, your keyboard, or even kissed your partner. What feels like contact is actually billions of tiny electromagnetic interactions happening all at once. So the sensation of touch is not atoms colliding, it's atoms refusing to get any closer. But the strange things around us don't stop at physics. Sometimes they can be found in the most ordinary places, even in your kitchen. Did you know that bananas are slightly radioactive? Don't worry, this doesn't mean bananas are dangerous. In fact, you could eat them every day without any problem. Okay. The reason bananas are radioactive is because they contain potassium, an essential mineral that your body needs to survive. A small percentage of natural potassium exists in isotope called potassium-40. which is unstable and slowly releases radiation as it decays. A single banana contains a tiny amount of potassium-40, producing a very small level of radiation. It's so low that you would need to eat an enormous number of bananas at once to notice any effect. Scientists sometimes use the banana equivalent dose as a fun way to compare radiation levels. For example, everyday sources of radiation around us are often measured by comparing them to the amount of radiation from one banana. The most interesting part is that radioactivity is not just something found in nuclear reactors or dangerous materials. It exists naturally, all around us, in the ground, in our bodies, and even in the food we eat. So the next time you eat a banana, remember, you're having a small radioactive snack from nature. I'll finish it. Don't worry, eating a lot of bananas won't make you glow in the dark, because you're already glowing. No way. Did you know that your body is actually glowing right now? Every single person on Earth is constantly emitting a tiny amount of light. But don't worry, it's not something you can see in the mirror. The cells in our bodies produce extremely weak light through chemical reactions happening inside them. This phenomenon is called biophoton emission. The light comes from tiny interactions between molecules, especially during normal processes like metabolism. However, this glow is millions of times weaker than what the human eye can detect. Special scientific cameras designed to capture individuals' photons can actually record this invisible light coming from living organisms. Interestingly, this glow changes throughout the day because our biological processes follow natural rhythms. Scientists are studying these tiny emissions to better understand how cells work and how changes in the body might affect them. So your body is producing a tiny amount of light, but that's not the only surprising thing hidden inside you. There is something much more valuable inside your body. Did you know that there is actual gold inside your body? It sounds surprising, but every human being carries a tiny amount of gold within them. The human body contains many different elements, and among them is gold. However, the amount is incredibly small, only a few milligrams or even less depending on the person. This gold enters our bodies through the food we eat, the water we drink, and the environment around us. Tiny traces of gold can be found throughout the body, including in the blood and tissues. But before you start thinking you're carrying a hidden treasure, there is the catch. The amount is far too small to extract or have any practical value. The interesting part is that your body is not made only from the elements we usually think about, like oxygen, carbon, and calcium. Inside you are tiny traces of many elements from the periodic table, including one of the most famous metals on Earth. So yes, you have gold inside your body, but humans might not be the most impressive species on Earth. In fact, an alien visitor might look at our planet and come to a very unexpected conclusion. If aliens came to Earth, they might think humans were domesticated by chickens. It sounds like a joke, but there is an actual and strange piece of evidence they might find interesting. Today there are far more chicken bones on Earth than human bones. Humans have raised and eaten billions of chickens over thousands of years, and their remains are now scattered across the planet in enormous quantities. From an alien archaeologist's perspective, they might discover a strange pattern. One species appears everywhere, lives alongside humans, is protected and fed by them, and exists in numbers far greater than humans themselves. They might wonder, did humans control chickens? Or did chickens somehow manipulate humans into creating the perfect environment for their survival? After all, chickens are one of the most successful animals on Earth because of humans. We provide them with food, shelter, and protection, while they provide us with eggs and meat. Maybe the first question aliens ask won't be, why did humans keep chickens? But why did chickens convince humans to keep them? Humans often think we see the world as it truly is, but our eyes only show us a tiny piece of reality. Some animals can see things that are completely invisible to us. The reality around us is not the same for every creature. Humans can only see a small part of electromagnetic spectrum called visible light, but some animals can detect wavelengths that are completely invisible to our eyes. For example, bees can see ultraviolet light. This means a flower that looks plain and simple to us may appear completely different to a bee. Many flowers have ultraviolet patterns on their petals that act like invisible landing guides, helping bees find the center where nectar and pollen are located. Birds, some insects, and certain reptiles can also detect ultraviolet light, giving them a different view of the world around them. Imagine walking through a field and seeing only colorful flowers, while a bee sees a hidden map on glowing patterns, guiding it from one flower to another. The world you see is only one version of reality. Millions of creatures around us are experiencing a hidden spectrum of colors that humans can never see. But seeing the world differently is not the only incredible ability But seeing the world differently is not the only incredible ability animals have. Some creatures can also remember things about us that we never expect. Did you know that crows can remember human faces? Most people think birds have simple brains, but crows are actually some of the most intelligent animals on Earth. These clever birds are capable of recognizing individual human faces and remembering them for years. If a crow has a negative experience with a person, it can remember that person's face and even warn other crows to be careful around them. Scientists have discovered that crows don't just react to random shapes or clothing, they can identify specific people. In experiments, researchers wearing certain masks were treated differently by crows even long after the first encounter. But their memory is not only about danger. Crows can also remember people who have helped them and may respond differently to those individuals. This means that in a way, crow flying over your backyard might not see you as just another human. It may recognize you, remember your actions, and have its own opinion about you. So be careful how you treat a crow, because it might remember you long after you've forgotten about it. But the intelligence of birds is only one of the things that make them incredible. Some birds have developed abilities that sound almost impossible. Did you know that some birds can actually sleep while flying? For humans, sleeping in the middle of the flight sounds impossible, but some birds have developed an incredible ability that allows them to rest during long journeys across the sky. Certain species, especially those that migrate over thousands of miles, can sleep while continuing to fly. They do this through a phenomenon called unihemispheric sleep. This means that one half of the bird's brain can enter a sleep state while the other half remains awake and active. One eye may stay open, allowing the bird to maintain direction, avoid obstacles, and continue controlling its flight. Birds such as frigate birds have been observed sleeping during long ocean crossings, sometimes for only a few seconds or minutes at a time while in the air. This ability is especially important during migrations when stopping to rest may not be possible because of huge distances or dangerous conditions. So while humans need the bed to sleep, some birds can literally rest their brain while flying thousands of miles above the earth. From the incredible abilities of animals, let's move to one of the strangest human stories ever recorded. A story that sounds like it was written for the movie, but actually happened. Did you know that one man lived inside the Paris airport for almost 18 years? No way! No way! No way! No way! His name was Mihran Karimi Nasseri, and his life sounds like something from a movie, but it actually happened. In 1988, Nasseri became trapped in a legal situation at Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris after losing his identification documents. Unable to leave the airport, he ended up living in Terminal 1 for years. Over time, the airport became his home. He slept on the bench, kept his belongings nearby, and became known by airport staff and travelers. His unusual story attracted worldwide attention and later inspired Steven Spielberg's 2004 movie The Terminal, starring Tom Hanks. The original English title of the film is exactly The Terminal, but Nasseri's real story was even stranger than the movie. Unlike the fictional character, his life was not a simple adventure. It was a complicated situation involving identity, documents, and years spent in a place designed only for temporary visitors. Imagine walking through an airport knowing that for thousands of passengers it's just a place they pass through, but for you it has become your entire world. But strange human stories don't always happen in unusual places. Sometimes something as ordinary as a phone call can become a world record. Did you know that the longest phone call in history lasted for more than 2 months? In 2012, two friends in the United States reportedly set a record by staying connected on a continuous phone call for 46 days, 12 hours, 22 minutes and 228 seconds. That's more than 1,100 hours of being on the phone without ending the call. They didn't spend all the time actively talking, of course. Like many extreme phone call records, the challenge involved keeping the connection alive while they slept, rested and continued their daily activities. After weeks, the phone call itself becomes almost like a constant background presence in your life. Today, with smartphones and internet calls, people can stay connected longer than ever, but a conversation lasting more than a month is still almost impossible to imagine. So the next time someone says "I'll call you later," remember, someone once made a phone call that lasted longer than many vacations. We've had people living in airports and phone calls lasting for months, but this next story might be the strangest business idea ever. One man looked at the simple rack and thought, people will buy this? So yeah, I'll sell them as pets. In the 1970s, a man named Gary Dahl was sitting in the bar when he heard people complaining about their pets. The cost, the mess and the responsibility. Then he had a strange idea. What if perfect pet was one that required absolutely nothing? I required absolutely nothing? He created the pet rock. It was simply an ordinary smooth stone placed inside a small box with air hose, straw bedding and a fine instruction manual explaining how to take care of your pet. At first, people thought it was just a joke, but the idea became a massive success. During the holiday season of 1975, millions of pet rocks were sold and Gary Dahl reportedly became a millionaire from a product that was literally a rock. The craze was short-lived, but it created an entirely new type of novelty product industry, proving that sometimes the best ideas are not about inventing something new, but about seeing something ordinary in a completely different way. Gary Dahl didn't sell rocks, he sold the joke, an experience and a story, and the people were willing to pay for it. Okay, let's go to another one. We usually think of flowers as beautiful and harmless, but some plants have a very unusual way of attracting attention. So if you're eating right now, you might want to put your food aside for the next fact, because this one is not exactly pleasant. Did you know that some flower smells like rotting flesh? No way. Flowers are usually associated with beautiful colors and pleasant scents, but some plants have evolved in completely different strategy. One of the most famous examples is the corpse flower, also known as Amorphophallus titanum. Amorphophallus titanum! It produces one of the largest flowers in the world and releases a powerful odor that has been compared to rotting meat. But why would the flower want to smell disgusting? The answer is survival. The corpse flower is not trying to attract humans, it's trying to attract insects like flies and beetles, which normally feed on decaying animals. These insects are tricked into visiting the flower, helping transfer pollen and allowing the plant to reproduce. The smell comes from a combination of chemicals compounds that are also produced during decomposition, creating the illusion that something has died nearby. So in nature, even the smell of death can be a brilliant survival strategy. The ocean is full of creatures that look like they don't belong on Earth, but some of them can do things that seem impossible outside of science fiction, including leaving the water and moving on land. Did you know there is a fish that can actually walk on land? When we think about fish, we imagine creatures that need water to survive, but some fish have developed incredible abilities that allow them to move outside their underwater world. One of the most famous examples is the mud skipper. This unusual fish spends a lot of time on muddy shores and can move across land, using its strong fins almost like legs. Mud skippers can breathe both in water and on land. Their skin and the lining of their mouths help absorb oxygen when they are outside the water. They can even climb, jump and defend their territory while walking across mud. Another amazing example is the climbing perch, a fish from Asia and Africa that can survive outside water for long periods and move across land using its fins and body movements. So the idea of fish walking on land is not science fiction. Nature has already created animals that can cross the border between water and land. And the last one! But fish are capable of much more than just surviving outside the water. Some species have abilities that sound almost impossible to believe. One of the strangest examples is their ability to change their sex. It sounds crazy, but for some species of fish this is completely natural part of survival. Many fish are hermaphroditic, meaning they have the ability to change from male to female or from female to male, depending on the needs of their group. For example, clownfish live in the groups where the largest fish is usually the female. If she dies, the largest male can transform into a female and take her place, allowing the group to continue reproducing. Another example is the wrasse, a type of reef fish. In some species, when the dominant male disappears, the largest female can change into a male and become the new leader of the group. Changing sex gives these animals a better chance of reproducing and survival. Scientists study these animals because they show how flexible and adaptable life on Earth can be. So in the ocean, identity is not always fixed from birth. Some creatures can literally transform themselves when nature requires it. So this is it! I hope this fact surprised you and brought you some positive emotions. If you learned something new today, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I spend a lot of time researching and creating these videos, and I truly appreciate every person who supports the channel. Thank you for watching, keep exploring, and see you in the next one. Да.